Hey, this is Mike McAdam from GenX Guitar. Today I'm going to be talking about this Gibson ES-335. So, as guitarists, we all have some form of gas or gear acquisition syndrome, and it plays out over time as you trade up for instruments and purchase other instruments. But what I found is, for example, I've owned this guitar now since 2000, and I want to tell you a little bit about the guitar in terms of how owning guitars over a long period of time, how your relationship changes with that instrument. So it's really more about the relationship with the instrument rather than me talking about specs on the guitar, etc. However, I will take a second and talk a little bit about what this guitar actually is. So, as I mentioned, I purchased the guitar in 2000. I was going to Berkeley at the time and was looking for an ES-335 style guitar. And I was looking around for a little while, found several options that didn't work for me at the time, and then one day I walked into Guitar Center in Danvers, Massachusetts, and found this guitar. And this is from 1970-71, and as many of you know, Gibson's serial numbers were kind of weird in that era in terms of being able to accurately date whether it was a 70 or 71. One of the things I think is interesting is if you look at Gibson's from about 72, 73 on, the specs on these instruments change dramatically, and in my opinion, start to look like the quality went down overnight. So a lot of the guitars from this era are starting to go up a bit, but I think they have more the kind of late 60s specs that a lot of players enjoy. When I had an opportunity to play this guitar, I didn't know what year it was. All I know is I played it for a few minutes and wound up really liking it and taking it home. So since I've had this guitar, I'm not sure, I think all of it was original, but I did make a few changes on it. I did replace the nut with the Buzz Feiten nut. If you haven't seen our video on why you should get a Buzz Feiten nut, check it out up here. And I really enjoyed the original, I think they're called T-top pickups that Gibson was making in the early 70s. I enjoy these pickups a lot. They are very nuanced, and I think they work really well for this instrument. I did install a Bigsby on it in 2004, and that I was kind of going in that Gretsch type direction where I wanted that type of sound. I am considering switching the bridge to, like a hardtail type piece or Tune-o-matic or whatever they're called. And that's pretty much it. This guitar has remained stock. So the point I'm trying to make with this is owning this guitar for over 20 years now, I have had some thoughts of selling it at various times, but recently I started playing this guitar again, and it really kind of came back into my life, and I realized how much I really love this instrument because it has a unique sound. So, talking about relationships with an instrument, it's more about how you're playing and how your connection to the kind of music you're playing changes over time. I think a lot of times when we're young, we have a guitar that we want to buy, and we'll often leverage the instrument we already have to kind of bump up and get the next one. And I think that's valid, but a lot of times if you're in a situation where you can hold on to that instrument, it's worth doing. Not just for the nostalgia, but you hear a lot of players say, and I'm included in this, if you pick up a certain instrument, it's going to make you play a certain way. And this instrument certainly does that for me. So I'm really enjoying, kind of revisiting this instrument. I used this instrument a lot in the 2000s, did a bunch of sessions with it, played out with it, which even at the time was maybe not a great idea because it was an old guitar back then. These days, I really don't want to take it out on a gig because it's pretty old now. It's over 50 years old, and I want to, enjoy it for hopefully another 50. That would be great. So one of the things about this guitar, I've played other 335s that certainly play a lot easier than this guitar. There's just something about it. The neck is a little narrow for me, but the sound I get out of it that I like is worth it. So at some point I may investigate getting a newer 335 style guitar that maybe has the sound and the playability. But like I said, the sound of this guitar just works for me. I really enjoy it a lot. And, there's that kind of thing where it's like, all right, I'm going to have to play harder and overcome the limitations of this instrument because the sound is just worth it. So I think a lot of times with our gear, especially with guitars, we have that moment where we realize there are limitations to certain things, and you have to try to find a way to make those limitations work for you. So that's all I have today. I did want to talk about this guitar because, like I said, if you've been playing for a long time, you develop relationships with these instruments, and sometimes you're going to veer towards one instrument, back to another. But right now, I'm enjoying playing this guitar and kind of reuniting with it and exploring the different sounds I'm able to get out of it. So if you have a similar relationship with your guitar, comment below. Of course, subscribe, like our content, as we like to get feedback so we can do more of this kind of stuff. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.